Motivation got you started. Let's be honest about that. Motivation got you excited. It got you up early one morning. It got you to write the goal down. It got you to buy the notebook, the planner, the gym membership. It felt like the beginning of something big. But then a few days passed, and the feeling faded. The excitement disappeared. And suddenly the same task that felt exciting on day one felt impossible on day 4. So you waited. You waited to feel motivated again. You waited for the spark to come back. You waited for inspiration to knock on your door. And while you waited, nothing happened. Here is a truth most people don't want to hear. Motivation is not reliable. It was never meant to be reliable. It is a feeling. And feelings change. They rise. They fall. They disappear without warning. If your life depends on how you feel, your life will always be unstable. But there is something stronger than motivation, something that doesn't care how you feel, something that shows up whether you're excited or exhausted, whether you're inspired or bored, whether the world is cheering for you or completely silent. That thing is discipline. Discipline doesn't ask permission from your emotions. Discipline doesn't wait for the mood to be right. Discipline simply does the work because the work needs to be done. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark is gone. And that is the difference between people who start and people who finish. Everybody starts. Starting is easy. Starting requires nothing but a burst of feeling. But finishing requires something deeper. Finishing requires a decision that you make again and again and again on the days you don't feel like it. Think about that for a moment. How many people do you know who started a business and quit? Started a diet and quit? Started learning a skill and quit? Not because they lacked talent. Not because they lacked opportunity, but because they were relying on motivation to carry them all the way to the finish line. And motivation cannot do that. It was never built for that job. So if you are waiting to feel ready, stop waiting. If you are waiting to feel motivated, stop waiting. Because the readiness you are searching for is not something you find. It is something you build through the decision to act even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want right now. Say that again in your mind. What you want most over what you want right now. The comfort of the bed versus the goal you set for the morning. The scroll on your phone versus the hour you promised your future. The easy excuse versus the hard truth that you are the only one responsible for what happens next. Every single day you are choosing between those two things, and every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Most people don't realize this. They think transformation happens in one dramatic moment. A speech that changes everything. A movie scene. A single decision that flips a switch. But that is not how it works. Transformation happens in small rooms at 5 in the morning when no one is watching. It happens in the gym, on the rep nobody sees. It happens at the desk, on the page nobody reads yet. It happens in the quiet decision to show up when showing up is the last thing you want to do. That is where discipline is built. Not in public, not on stage, in private, in silence, in the small, unseen moments that no one will ever applaud. And here is something important to understand. Discipline is uncomfortable before it becomes powerful. In the beginning, it feels like a fight. Every action feels forced. Every habit feels foreign. Your mind resists. Your body resists. Everything in you wants to return to what is familiar and easy. But if you push through that resistance long enough, something changes. The thing that once felt forced starts to feel automatic. The habit that once felt foreign starts to feel like home. And the discipline that once required willpower becomes who you are. That is the goal. Not to rely on willpower forever, but to build a life where discipline becomes identity. Because willpower is limited. You only have so much of it in a day. But identity is not limited. When discipline becomes who you are, you don't need to convince yourself anymore. You don't fight yourself anymore. You simply do what disciplined people do, because that is who you have become. Now let's talk about excuses, because excuses are the enemy of every disciplined life. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right moment. These excuses feel true in the moment. But ask yourself something honest. Is it really that you don't have time? Or is it that you haven't made this a priority? Is it really that you're too tired? Or is it that comfort feels easier than discipline right now? Excuses are not lies you tell other people. They are lies you tell yourself. And the most dangerous lies are the ones you actually believe. Every excuse excuse you accept weakens you a little more. And every excuse you reject strengthens you a little more. There is no neutral ground. You are either building discipline or you are building excuses. And whichever one you practice the most is the one that will define you. So here is a question worth sitting with. What would your life look like 6 months from now if you stopped negotiating with yourself? If every time your mind whispered, "You can skip it just this once," you answered back, "No, I said I would, so I will." That single shift, refusing to negotiate with your own excuses, is the foundation of every disciplined person you have ever admired. They are not more talented than you. They are not luckier than you. They simply stopped negotiating a long time ago. Now, understand something else. There will be seasons where discipline feels lonely. Seasons where you wake up early while everyone else sleeps in. Seasons where you say no to nights out to protect tomorrow's results. Seasons where you choose the harder path while everyone around you takes the easier one. In those seasons, you might feel disconnected. You might feel like you're missing out. You might even feel a little isolated from people who don't understand what you're building. That feeling is normal, but don't mistake it for a sign to stop. Every person who has built something meaningful has walked through a quiet season like this. A season where the results weren't visible yet, where the only proof of progress was the discipline itself. Think of it like training in a gym with no mirrors. You can't see the muscle forming. You can't see the strength building. All you can feel is the resistance. But the resistance is the proof that something is changing, even when you can't see it yet. So if you are in a quiet season right now, a season where nobody is watching, nobody is praising you, nobody fully understands the discipline you are practicing, keep going. Because the strength you are building right now, in silence, is the strength that will carry you when the moment finally arrives that requires everything you have. Discipline prepares you for the moment motivation could never reach. Now let's talk about identity, because this is where real change happens. Most people try to change their actions without changing their identity. They say, "I want to exercise more," but deep down they still see themselves as someone who struggles with exercise. And that internal conflict is exhausting. It's like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. Real change happens when you stop asking, "What do I need to do?" and start asking, "Who do I need to become?" Because actions that come from identity don't require constant motivation. A person who sees themselves as disciplined doesn't need to convince themselves to show up. They simply show up because that's who they are. So ask yourself honestly, who do you see yourself as right now? And who do you need to become to build the life you actually want? The gap between those two people is closed one decision at a time. Not one transformation, one decision. Then another, until those decisions become a pattern, and that pattern becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your identity. This is why small actions matter so much more than people realize. It's not really about the workout. It's about becoming someone who doesn't skip workouts. It's not really about the book you read tonight. It's about becoming someone who values growth over distraction. It's not really about the early morning. It's about becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves. Every disciplined action is a vote for a new identity. And eventually, you don't have to try to be that person anymore. You simply are. Now, here is something that needs to be said clearly. Discipline does not mean punishment. Discipline does not mean suffering for the sake of suffering. Discipline means choosing what your future self will thank you for over what your current self wants right now. It means respecting your goals enough to protect them, even from your own mood, because moods are temporary. Goals are not. And if you let your mood control your actions, you will spend your entire life reacting instead of building. So the next time you don't feel like doing the work, remind yourself of this. Feelings are not facts. Feeling unmotivated does not mean you are incapable. It simply means this is the moment discipline was made for. Anyone can act when they feel inspired, but discipline is proven in the moments inspiration is missing. That is where the separation happens. That is where ordinary people become extraordinary people, not through dramatic talent, but through quiet consistency repeated over time. So today, make a decision. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Start acting like a disciplined person, even before you feel like one, because the feeling will follow the action. It almost always does. You don't need to feel ready to take the first step. You only need to take the step, and readiness will catch up to you. No more waiting for inspiration. No more depending on emotion. No more excuses dressed dressed up as reasons. Just decisions, just action, just discipline, practiced quietly every single day until it becomes who you are. Because one day you will look back and you will realize the moment you stopped waiting to feel motivated was the moment you finally became unstoppable. Discipline over motivation, identity over willpower, consistency over intensity. That is how ordinary days turn into an extraordinary life. So get up, do the work, keep the promise you made to yourself, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because that is where discipline is born, and that is where your future is quietly being built, one decision at a time.